So you've identified this problem, which is I'm a teacher. I can help them with physics and school related things, but there are problems in their lives that are beyond school.
Right.
So you've identified that the only way to get to these kids is to first help them with this underlying problem somehow. So what do you do now? Do you just go give all your money to them and buy them a house, or what do you do?
So that's exactly like became like, I mean, no, you're absolutely, that is really where it became the central question for almost 3 years of teaching, where I became obsessed with this problem. So it started with really like seeing, well, schools do have in a way built-in systems, counselors, social workers. Okay. So like there's a fundamental understanding that schools are just not academic houses, right?
Right. There's a support system there.
Exactly. Like we've moved away from parents educate, schools you teach. I was like, okay, well, that's a good kind of, there's funding for this.
Yeah.
Now, I don't believe that we have enough counselors and social workers in schools. Like, and I think that, there's a lot of advocacy and work to be done here.
Yeah.
But it was like, I'm really honoring and seeing how much teachers are putting in. I mean, I'm a teacher. I'm here putting and it's like, okay, so it really became a journey of inquiry.
Yeah.
From community members, like asking questions, no obsessions with a solution as much as the obsession with how are we dealing with these things, right?
And we're not.
And we're not, right? And so it was like, okay, looking at how counselors are receiving referrals. Like when a student is, let's say, facing a challenge, what do you do? Like, what do I do as a teacher? So, okay, so it's like, oh, there's a form that you fill and then you put in a box. Okay, so that was pretty, and then that form is supposed to go to the counselor or just kind of message the counselor or the social worker. Another thing was, wow, like there is a lot of nonprofits. Like I call it, we have become a country that is program rich and system poor.
What does that mean?
We've got plenty of programs.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nonprofits, great, wonderful nonprofits in this city, great system level programs, great people who like want to help and volunteer. It's like, okay, so how are we accessing and organizing these resources? How is a counselor keeping inventory? For example, when a counselor leaves, do all of these relationships go with them? So I started trying it out. So I convinced my principal at that time to kind of let me manage the campus connections with nonprofits and like external organizations.
Okay, just one pause. When you said my principal, for some reason, I imagined you like a kid, like telling them like how to do this. I know, but it just, in my mind, because you used the word my principal, it just made me think like, oh, this little kid.
It sounds like you had too many trips to the principal's office.
That's what I was about to say. I know, right?
A ton.
So it really started with, again, kind of my pledge in coming to Houston was don't think about what's next as much as embrace the moment that you're in. And that way, instead of embracing where I want to arrive, I started to embrace a journey with multiple stakeholders.
With where you are.
With where I am. Exactly. Like, what am I facing? What am I feeling? Like, how are other community members feeling and so on? So then I started coordinating resources. So, for example, Mark's mom would come and speak to my classroom. I mean, like that is an individual that is considered a volunteer that, which are like to talk about her journey. Other great nonprofits that deal with mental health, with post-secondary kind of training programs or whatever the case is. And I started creating a spreadsheet. And I was like, oh my God. Once it like became more than 2 organizations, it was so hard to keep track. Which kids got it? Which kids didn't? Who needs what? Now I'm having like exponential multiples, right? Like a student is in multiple services. It's like, okay, well, students are now matriculating to another grade level. It's like, and it was like, no wonder why our counselors are so overwhelmed and our social they're like, how do you even quantify the demand for the various services coming in? Like, do you go through these papers and by the time you go through all of these referrals, you've spent so much time going through those things that now, you don't even have time to really spend with the kids that actually need you and so on. So that was really the second phase in terms of the inquiry stage.